Okay, the first thing you need to do is cut two 20-inch legs for the front. 20 there, mark it there, and zap away. Okay, now you need two 20-inch and 3/4 legs, but you need to cut at a 15-degree angle. So I've already set the saw to 15 degrees. Now you want 20 and 3/4. Keep the same 15. You can measure really on either side of it. And you're going to need two of those. Okay, now for your underarm supports, you're going to need a piece 26.5 inches long, and that's going to the outside. This end will be angled at 15 degrees, the end down here. The other end will be a straight cut. So let me reset my saw to straight. And of course this could be done with a regular saw. Miter saw does make it a little bit easier. So let me check that measurement again. 26.5. Remember, always measure twice, cut once, and cuss a whole bunch if you get it wrong. Let's line it up. Remember, we'll need two of these. Okay, now I'm going to attach the two front legs and the two back legs together. I'm going to do it outside. It's a nice day outside, so I'm going to do that. Now we're going to cut the stringer that's underneath our seat. One way to do that is measure 1 inch down from the vertical, from the very top corner. Measure 1 inch down there, and then take a speed square and square it off. And then you can cut that with either a circular saw or a jigsaw, saber saw, either one. That's going to go up under the side. So I'll cut that and be right back. Okay, I've clamped them together now. And really the reason I'm doing that is to be able to get the angle down on this end down here. I'm going to actually set it, not truly make a true Adirondack chair, in the fact that I have elderly parents and that come over a lot, and I have a wife that hates Adirondack chairs, so I'm going to make the seat recline, but not quite as much as a normal Adirondack chair is. You could control this angle by bringing it down, but then you'd also have to recut that angle. I still have the 15 degrees cut on that angle, so I'm going to do that, and it's going to bring it down. It's going to have some incline, but not so much that an old person or an overweight person couldn't get out of it. Trickiest piece in the whole thing is this one here. This is the front edge. I've leveled it off here, so I'll be able to put, I'm going to use deck boards for my seat just because they're cheaper and a little bit easier. This back angle ended up being 30 degrees, but again, I think the best thing is to lay it out, clamp it together, and then find one that matches up with it. And then now I'm going to go cut another one exactly like this. Okay, now I'm going to put the stringer on. Now, this is going to depend on your seat height, on what you want your seat to be. And that really varies on personal preference. Again, since I have some older people that use it, and I'm a little bigger myself, I'm going to set it up a little bit higher than you might want to, but that's completely up to you. I'm going to go 16 inches from the ground and make a mark right there. Then that will be the top of it. That will leave my seat height about 17 inches when it's all done. Okay, I'm going to square that up and then drill it, screw it. Okay, now I've now I flipped it over. I cut a 27-inch piece on the front, and I'm going to use the deck board on the front just because I like the looks of it. It hangs down a little bit lower and all that stuff. What I'm going to do is square it up on this side first, put a couple screws in to hold it, then I'll come over here and bring this edge out to where it matches up, and then make that work. Okay, the frame of the chair is done. Instead of putting a piece across the middle, since I got that deck board piece on the front, I'm just going to put deck slats going down, or pieces of deck board. I'm going to take a notch out this piece so it hangs out a little bit to there to make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to do that and then put those on. Okay, now I've put the first two slats on it. I'm actually going to leave it there at the moment and get started on the back. The other thing I realized probably is I need one more deck board simply because of making it a little bit wider. That's okay if you do that. I'm also decided I'm going to use, I was going to use 2x4s on the armrests. I'm going to go ahead and use, since I got to get another deck board anyway, I'm going to go ahead and build my deck board, my armrests out of a deck board. And that way it's a little bit wider, a little more comfortable to put a drink on and all that stuff. Okay, here's the plan. I've cut 13 strips of, this is 1x2 pressure treated furring. I've cut 13 strips of that, 36 inches long, and I've cut 2 cross braces out of 2x4 that are 23 3/4 inches wide, which is the actual inside width of the chair. Then I'm going to cut another piece of probably 1x2 up near the top to hold it together. I'm going to round off this top just for looks. I'm going to do the back to make it look like a US flag, and see how it turns out. So you'll find out with me. This is a prototype. So, okay. Okay, now I've laid out the pieces. Went in and put my bottom piece on down here and have countersunk the screws. I put the screws in, but I didn't tighten them up a bunch. Simply because I'm going to take it back apart to paint it. Painting those slats while it's together would be a pain. What I'm going to do now is I went to the top piece. I cut a piece a little bit shorter. I think it ended up being 22.5 inches. And then mitered the edges 45 degrees because that'll be up top. I'm going to round this top off slightly. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in place while I round the top off. Then I'll actually take the screws back out apart to paint the individual parts. It'd just be too hard if I tried to paint together. I guess you could just paint the flat part of them, but I'll probably paint the whole slat. So, okay, I'll be back. Okay, I drew a slight curve on it here. All I simply did was I actually took a piece of flexible vinyl plank flooring that we had left over from the basement and simply drew a curve like that. Now I'm going to cut it with a saber saw. I did a little trial and error for the back to get the angle of the seat right in the back. Remember, I'm still missing a seat slat. But what I did was I put a piece back in here and toenailed it, and toenailed it put a couple screws in, just a couple. I can back them out if I had to, and then put this on. This actually is not attached to it. Again, the seat itself, seat back, is not actually attached to it. I've just attached it with the clamp right now, holding it in place enough to get a feel that the angle's right and all that. So, hey, don't be afraid to experiment a little bit as you're trying this. Okay, next you cut two 26-inch long arm blanks, or measure really from here to, I'm going to extend mine out a little bit and then round it over. When you cut the edges, just to soften the edge a little bit, I think it'd be a good idea to go back here somewhere with the straight edge. That's really based on what you like. I need a normal square, not that one. But you're going to cut something off here, and then I'm going to round this top off here. Make sure also you flip the top boards up, the best side of the boards up, because that's what people will see. That way you have a nicer wide arm length. You could put a 2x4 on the top if you want to save a little money. But the deck board makes it a little bit wider, more impressive looking chair, and gives you a place to put a cold one. Okay, I've done some painting. Remember, I took the flag apart after I marked where the blue is going to be, and then I labeled each one of them with an R or a W for what the rest of them are. I taped off with painter's tape and then lightly spray painted. You don't have to really heavily spray paint. You could probably brush paint, but I had the spray paint, so that's what I used. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and paint. These are red. I also have solid red ones over here that need to be painted, so I'm going to do all the red at the same point in time. I've gone back over the blue once it dried and put painter's tape to divide it off, and then what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to lay a towel over the top part to prevent any overspray from getting on it. Okay, there's the bottom. I put a coat of just a combination stain urethane on it just to buy it a few more years. Also cut the extra pieces. Those are the pieces that are going to go behind the flag part. And the flag part is right in there right now. And I'm going to assemble it tomorrow. I'm also going to hit that with a light coat of the same stain urethane because I didn't do the back of them. Since I was using spray paint, I did kind of do the sides, but I've not done the back. So I'll assemble it tomorrow. Okay, I finished painting it. Again, I used tape to mark off the blue, painted the blue first, then painted the red and white. This morning I stenciled on some stars. They're dry now. And what I've done now is I've set my 3 cross braces underneath it. I'm really paying attention to the top and the bottom one first. And I'm going to square it up and screw them in place. So, okay, now I'm putting the piece in. I'm going to attach the back with a row of screws right across here. I'm also going to put another piece back here simply because since these are individual slats, I'm worried about them warping and bending. So I've cut another piece just like the piece that's behind here that I'm going to sandwich in there just to be on the safe side. I'm a firm believer in better safe than sorry. So there it is, and I'm going to put those in and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, there's the finished chair around the fire pit, ready to go. So I'll back up and you can see the whole fire pit. Just thought it was a nice little addition to the fire pit. Build one, have fun with it. I'm going to try a simpler version next with just maybe 4 slats on the back and then paint it using painter's tape and stripes instead of the individual slats because they added a bunch of difficulty to it. But it still wasn't doable. It was doable. It was a fun little project. So stay tuned for my next one. And next one I think I'll do is a normal one, still red, white, and blue. That way it's ready for July 4th and cookouts and s'mores and a fire. Already got the fire pit all loaded up, ready to go. Got some other seating around here, and that's it.